Stadium on the campus of the Hall of Fame Village. Drew Sarachman, College Football Hall of Famer Jim Ballard. We are going to recap Week 6 of the high school football season. And we'll start with a Saturday game. Canton Central Catholic went on the road up at Lutheran East. Lutheran East team that had 3 wins. Got back to 500. Central's now 3-3. Junior wide receiver Jimmy Kane got into the end zone receiving, rushing, and Crusaders really dominated that game from start to finish.
Yeah, it was one of those games that Canton Central Catholic really kind of needed. They were pretty beat up, Drew, after the Alliance game. You know, they don't have the numbers in a lot of these D1 schools that they're playing in. You know, each and every week their schedule's brutal. So it's good for Coach Lyndon Smith's team to go up there, get a nice win, get some nice computer points to push for later in the season. Guys were able to only have to play a quarter and a half before they put the ball cap on, so the bodies weren't didn't have to take as much absorption of hits and whatnot. Jack Talkington didn't have to play that much on defense. You know, he's got a beat up leg right now, so it was a great win for the Crusaders.
Yeah, for sure. The other Catholic school in Stark County, my St. Thomas Aquinas Knights, lost to Rootstown 56-8. Conotton Valley also went down 56-8 to Caldwell. East Canton, kind of a letdown loss to Newcomerstown, 26-20. A game I thought they'd probably win after 2 weeks in a row, looking really good. You know, Betts was looking good at quarterback, McCullough was looking good. So that's kind of a letdown, I think, for East Canton and the IVC there. Hopefully they can get back on track. You know, their schedule's a little bit favorable here going forward the rest of the season. So hopefully Spider Miller and his crew can get it back. Malvern bounced back this week. 42-0 shellacking of Strasburg. Sophomore quarterback Jared Withrow continues to have a nice season. And in this game, he broke the Malvern single game passing record with 350 yards. He was 20 of 25 passing, 350 and 4 touchdowns. And, you know, Malvern, they've had some good quarterbacks in the past. You know, Tucci was really good, set a lot of records. So for Jared Withrow as a sophomore to step in and break that record, that's really an accomplishment.
It's impressive. And not only did he do it with the amount of yards, but the fact that he was 20 for 25, I mean, that's 80%. Very efficient. It's not like he went, 7 for 9 for 250 and, 3 long touchdowns. 20 for 25 is moving chains with the big plays, efficient, didn't turn the ball over. Heck of a game. I'm excited for him. Again, when we'll get to it, just unbelievable, really, really good quarterback play. County this year.
It's crazy. I've never seen it the way it is right now with quarterbacks. We're going to move on here to Sandy Valley. They dropped their second consecutive game. They lost 61-21 to Indian Valley. Sandy Valley, tough week 1 loss. Then they had a pretty good showing against Canton South. Beat Manchester. Looked like things were coming together. Now they've dropped 2 straight. Hopefully, they can right the ship there and finish the season strong. And then a game that you and TJ Downing were on over at Paul Brown Tiger Stadium. Massillon coming off a huge win against St. Ed's. Now they beat Austintown Fitch 49-28. From what I understand, the game wasn't as close as that score either.
No, it really wasn't. And the thing for me, and TJ and I and Mark Milano also talked about it, was how's this Massillon team going to respond after an emotional win like that against Division I, state champion from last year, St. Ed's. And the way that the game went, the fact that they won it the way that they did. St. Ed's was trying to run the game out. They fumbled the ball. Massillon gets it back. Super sophomore quarterback Slaughter throws a dot in the corner of the end zone on a fade on a 4th and I believe it was 4th and 8 or 4th and 11, whatever it was 4th and long, and the kid dropped a dime, in the last 30 seconds of the ball game. With all that, here comes Fitch, 5-0. Coach Parker's team playing extremely well. You got the phenom physical freak coming off the edge, Robinson, with 33 offers, including Notre Dame, LSU, Kentucky, on and on and on and on. It got real quiet with him in that ball game, and that's because of the job that the offensive line did for Massillon. They physically kicked Fitch's ass. I mean, there's no other way to say it. They lined up, they went big personnel, they'd run the G scheme with the guard pulling around, and they'd bring the H around the Fox, basically with the H back. Hartson was awesome. Their offensive line was awesome. They ran up 406 yards of offense on Fitch.
Crazy.
I mean, it was a physical domination from the outset. You know, we keep talking about Hartson and the offense, but the defense, you know, J.P. Simon's defensive line, disruptive, completely took the run game out of the ball game. I believe they had less than 25 yards rushing. The quarterback for Fitch was impressive, but Massillon's team just continues to get better. This team is, right now to me, is a top 4 school in the state in their division. I haven't seen other schools, obviously, but what I'm seeing from Massillon from week 2 to this past week, they just keep getting better. You know, they keep figuring it out on defense. They keep flying around on defense, creating turnovers. The run game is efficient. You still got Ardell Banks on the outside at 6'4", who can go up and make plays. But Hartson was the story. The offensive line was the story. And the game showed out. They just out-physical the Fitch Falcons.
Yeah, I had the opportunity last week to go on the Black Swarm podcast. Some Massillon guys, shout out to them. We kind of talked about this, and that was something, the running game is something I thought Massillon was going to be able to impose their will on against Fitch. So, you know, if you're a Massillon fan, you haven't checked out the guys on Black Swarm podcast, check them out. If you're playing Massillon that week, they always do a good preview of the game. So I appreciate them having me, but yeah.
Hartson, man, 40 carries.
Yeah, when
274.
TJ came over to my house after the game last week for a little bit on his way home. We live close, and he gave me the stat sheet. He just handed it to me, and I looked. I said, Hartson had 40 carries, and we were dying. Like, they just pounded the rock and said, we're bigger, we're badder, and we're going to run this ball down.
Not only did he carry it 40 times, but they had 2 other guys that ran it at least 10. Dorian Pringle went 10 for 77 and 3 touchdowns. Then they bring the sophomore off the bench, Peyton Mitchell. He went 10 for 44, and Slaughter ran 2 for 14. So, I mean, they were just running backs in and out, keeping guys fresh, and they just wore down Fitch's defense. That was the big thing during the course of the game. And the other thing that really jumped out to me was the time of possession. I mean, they absolutely parried them, if you will, as far as controlling the amount of possessions that team had. You know, they put together 8, 9, 10 play drives. You know, the first drive of the ball game, they just, I believe it was a 9 or 10 play drive. They didn't put the ball in there once. They just lined up and they said, this is the way it's going to be. And that's the way that it went. Not just that drive, but in the second, third, and fourth, they just completely dominated.
Yeah, so for the Massillon Tigers, they had 2 out-of-state teams coming up before they finish their season. Obviously, they got, you know, the big one, War of 1894, you know, week 10. That'll be a huge game. But before we take it to break here, just want to talk about Ben Wallenberg's Chocolates and Nuts. Just a stone's throw away here from, you know, Hall of Fame Village, down in the Fulton Drugs Plaza across from Stadium Park. They're getting everything stocked up, you know, for Halloween. They've got special Halloween stuff down there. You know, the candy, the nuts, they're making nuts fresh every single day. So get down there, check them out on the corner of Harrison and 25th Street, Fulton Drugs Plaza. The other thing is, you know, the holidays are coming. You have a business, they're going to do wholesale pricing for you. If you want to give, you know, start getting those holiday gifts together for your employees, you know, they do those types of things. So just give Ben a call down there and he'll hook you up. We're going to take a break here. You're watching High School Football Rewind, brought to you by the Stark Media Team.
At C.H. Vallis & Associates, we've been proudly serving the greater Stark County community for over 78 years. Locally owned, we cover your home, auto, business, and life insurance along with your group benefits. Our partnership with auto owners has allowed us to span not only Ohio, but throughout the entire country. Did you know that Auto Owners, an A++ rated company by AM Best and a Fortune 500 company, has ranked C.H. Vallis & Associates a top 10 insurance agency in the state of Ohio? From your basic home and auto needs to insuring some of the largest companies in America, there's a reason people choose C.H. Vallis & Associates and auto owners. Our dedication and passion for our clients and their coverage is part of our commitment to excellence. For all your insurance coverage needs, there's only one call to make, and that's C.H. Vallis & Associates, located at 1302 South Main Street in North Canton. Contact us at 330-494-2776 today and see the difference in customer satisfaction.
All right, we are back here on High School Football Rewind. Make sure, obviously if you're watching this, you know how to find our YouTube page. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe. It's free. You get updates anytime we upload stuff throughout the week. We're doing a lot of stuff. Obviously, we've got our stream game Friday nights, but on Mondays, you have the opportunity to hear Sam Berkwin talk. Obviously, he does a great job. Has done it for years in Stark County. Get to check out speeches from the Hall of Fame Luncheon Club, which you'll be speaking out later this year. And they had a great local speaker on yesterday.
Mike Desker, the golf pro from Golf Galaxy, gives more lessons than anybody in the country. In Golf Galaxy, he's going to push probably 2,000 lessons. But he was a great speaker. There's more great speakers lined up. RJ Van Alman does a great job. We're working with him to try to get some new flow, new blood in there with different speakers. Excited about the Alumni Association, trying to partner a little bit with them and get new guys in there. And if you haven't gone out, it's on Mondays at Tozie's. It's a great time, great speakers, and if you don't, we'll bring it to you from live from Tozie's. Yeah, and
it's really cool. It's $40 a year, and then you pay $12 for lunch each time. But with that, you get free admission to the Hall of Fame for the whole year of your membership for the Hall of Fame Luncheon Club. So, that's a great value right there in itself. If you haven't been to the Hall of Fame in a while, make sure you check it out. Obviously, we appreciate them, always letting us use facilities here. But let's get back into things. Pac-7 play really started to heat up this week. Obviously, there were a lot of big games. Second overtime win of the year for Tuslaw. They beat Manchester 27-26. Tommy Schneider, big game for the Mustangs, 3 touchdowns. So nice to see Tuslaw. They're right on the cusp of that, 16 teams that get in the playoffs there. So hopefully they can put things together so they can get, Coach Gelling can get his squad into the playoffs. Canton South, 56-36 winner over Triway. Wildcats offense stays consistent. Poochie Snyder, 7 touchdowns he accounted for. 4 through the air, 3 with his legs. But I feel like I'm a broken record. I keep saying this every single week. They gave up 36 points. Now, I don't know if any of those were garbage time points or what, but if they want to win the Pac-7, when they want to make a run in the playoffs, they've got to tighten the screws on defense.
For sure. You can't expect your team to be an Arena League team every week, and by that I mean whoever has the ball last. They're obviously very, very good on offense. They keep, Poochie Snyder keeps stuffing stats in there everywhere he can, whether it's with his legs or with his arm. The one stat that I like that it's not filling up, and that's interceptions and fumbles. He's not turning the ball over. This is his 3rd year, as a starter. He's really settled into Coach Dennison's offense. He's doing a great job. He's having an unbelievable year. But you're right, Drew. They got to firm and get the defense going. They need to not let the team score as many points as they're scoring every week. Get a couple stops, because that if they get a couple stops or a turnover and they give that extra possession to Poochie Snyder, that they're going to put it in the end zone. They're having an unbelievable year, but they got to shore up the defense for sure.
Yeah. Jeff Tyler was flying solo up at CVCA this past week on our YouTube stream. And it was CVCA 22-20 winner in a controversial game, so to say. A lot of questions about the officiating in that game. CVCA, but they stay on top in the Pac-7. They beat Canton South. Now they beat Fairless, so they're really in the driver's seat there.
Kyle Snyder, running back, linebacker for CVCA.
Thick kid.
I've watched him since he was a freshman, Drew. I worked with the quarterback, Michael Bevington, when he was a freshman, and he was one of those guys you see on tape, you're like, ooh, who was that kid? Not just on offense, but on defense. He's a big physical kid. He's a Kent State wrestling commit. So, that says it all right there, the kind of toughness that you have to be able to wrestle at Division I level. He's been their go-to, the bell cow, so to speak, this year. CVCA's changed their offense with a new coach that they've from what they used to do in the past. They used to throw it a lot more. Now they're running the veer offense with BQA quarterback Ryan Weehee, who got in the end zone last week. They only put the ball in there twice. He went 2 for 2, but it was efficient. They're like Perry in the way that they're just going to run the ball, and then they're going to try to lull you to sleep once you start getting your eyes in the backfield because you're loading the box playing man-to-man. Weehee had a nice ball game. CVC is playing extremely well. They're very well coached. They fly around on defense, and that offense is really good at what they do, and that's just pound the rock and keep you off balance.
Yeah, you know, it was a game that Farrell's came back a little bit. You know, they blocked a field goal for a touchdown. Then in the final minutes, they drove down, scored a touchdown, had to get the 2-point conversion, knocked out at the 1-yard line. So, you know, Coach Sarbaugh is going to want to try to get those guys back, you know, on track with a big game coming against Canton South.
That's a big one. You're going to have to lead the other one in the past. And this will be a good ball game. This will be a nice test to see who comes out. It's pretty evenly matched. Players on both sides can make plays, so it should be a lot of fireworks.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game. Canton South and Farrell's this week. It was Northwest 27-7 winner over Orville, down at Orville, which is not an easy place to play. Kyler Maraglia, 255 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns on the ground. So big win for Northwest, you know, to stay, you know, in contention in the pack there. You know, obviously, you know, they're doing a lot of different things down there on offense. Throughout the season, you know, they make a change to the quarterback after first.
Badger's starting to figure it out a little bit. I mean,
Badger's looking good.
They're one of those teams, Drew, that, you know, we covered. We watched them play Louisville. They just kind of, you know, they just couldn't really get a lot going. Louisville had a great night that night on offense and defense. But I didn't realize until I did when I was looking at the paper, they are quietly 4-2 now. And they are playing with a lot.
And they're playing good defense.
Playing good defense. They're playing with more confidence on offense. The sophomore quarterback Badger's settling in. It always helps when you can turn around and hand the ball off to Maraglia. But the defense is getting done until this young quarterback keeps gaining more confidence, getting more experience, making more throws. Coach DeMarco, who I've worked with his quarterbacks for years and years, when he was at Louisville, he is a great offensive mind. They do a great job of spreading the field, not only with their splits for the pass game, but when you can spread the field and you get those outside linebackers that are trying to space out a little bit more to the slots, it opens up bigger running lanes for Maraglia, and he only needs a crease. He's really shifty. He's tough to see. He's you know, I believe around 5'7". So when he gets behind that big offensive line, it's easy for him to get in the second level because you can't really see him until he's there, and then he's by you.
Yeah. We'll move on to the EBC now. West Branch, 57-7 over Minerva. Drew DeShields, 7 of 19 passing for 316 yards and 5 touchdowns.
7 for 19.
17 for 19.
17 for 19.
Yeah. Right now, I mean, I just don't think, like, I know they're one game into their EBC play. I don't think anyone is going to be able to challenge him for Player of the Year in the EBC. I mean, I know, you know, Jackson Johnson, you know, does a great job. You know, Zerbrug does a great job. Caden Davis, there's a lot of talent in the EBC. But just the numbers that Drew DeShields puts up are absolutely bonkers right now.
Yeah, he's a talented player. I mean, he's a Division I commit. I believe he's going to Eastern Illinois.
Eastern Illinois, yep.
Where Romo went. So that tells you what kind of player he is, getting a Division I scholarship. And for parents out there, that just goes to show you, I mean, West Branch isn't St. Ed's or Massillon or, you know, a top big school. It just goes to show you, listen, with everything that's out there now, with scoutingohio.com, with all the media out there, if you're good enough, they're going to find you.
Absolutely.
And Drew DeShields is that guy. He's putting up unbelievable numbers. Comes from a tree, or a small forest, if you will, of athletes in the family. Dad was a good athlete, you know, big brother. Ended up playing at Akron. And he's since transferred to a D3 school out in Texas. But Drew's having a great season. He's very athletic. He can throw it. He can run it. He's a top dual threat quarterback in the state of Iowa. And we're seeing that each and every week.
You know, 57-7 wins over Minerva. I'm going to talk about Minerva for a second because it, you know, as a guy that's coached and a guy who believes that football is so important to kids' development and all the things that it provides kids growing up, Minerva, what the hell is going on? What the hell has been going on since 2015? I mean, I know they've got a new coach in there, Coach Speakman, in his first year, and he's got, a long history of being a head coach down in Florida and, some other places. He coached at App State as a tight ends coach back a while ago. But, it takes more than a coach. You can't just hire a coach and say, well, turn things around. I'm going to read you Minerva's records since 2015. 2015, 0-10. 2016, 0-10. 2017, 0-10. 2018, 0-10. 2019, 1-9. They beat West Branch, who was 2-8. So look at the difference in the two programs. Both teams in 2019, West Branch was 2-8, Minerva was 1-9. West Branch's turnaround that short time, obviously talent has something to do with it. But then 2020, the COVID year, 0-5. 2021, 0-10. And they're 0-5 right now. I guess my point is, when I was growing up, Minerva had the Ford kids. They were all tough. They've had a lot of rich tradition in football.
DJ Merritt.
Yeah, Matt Kishman, who's involved down there, does a great job. He was a great player for them on the line.
Roger Bettis, got to throw that out. Old school player.
For sure. Minerva community, get your shit together. Football is so important to the development of kids. I mean, for you to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons, without a win, you have to be better than that. Because, like we were talking, we'll talk to Antonio Hall. The youth program is so important. Have they stopped playing football in Minerva at the young ages? Like, what are they doing? I want someone from Minerva to reach out to me and say, okay, this is our plan for football. I'd really like to know because, my big thing is always don't cheat the kids. And I don't know, obviously, over the last, 7 years in Minerva, something's not right. You can't just blame a coach. It is a community effort. If you want to look at Louisville, look at Massillon, look at Jackson. We've talked about their success. When you come together as a community and say, all right, athletics are important to our kids because it develops them, and you get everyone behind it, and Minerva's kind of a, resurgent community down there. Things they're doing downtown with businesses and stuff. There is no reason why Minerva can't turn it around and be competitive. And I really challenge everyone down in that community to rally around it and say, what can I do to help these kids in this football program? What can we do to make our football program competitive? Because they've got great facilities down in Minerva. It's not like those kids. Baseball is phenomenal. Stuff they've done in the gym there. I mean, they have facilities there. Now it's up to the community to rally around this football program and Coach Speakman in his first year and say, what can we do to help, Coach? What can we do? Because that's what needs to happen, and they aren't going to turn around until they do that. So my little gripe there, tangents over about Minerva.
Here's what I can tell you. I work with Hunter Dietrich, the starting quarterback. They do have some kids that are putting in that extra time that really want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've spent a ton of time with him in the film room and in workouts. I mean, he's coming on Sundays after playing on Fridays. I can tell you this. It's tough to build a program when you keep rotating coaches in and out.
Absolutely.
And is it because they hired the wrong guy? The guy got in there, it wasn't what he thought. Those are the questions that need to be answered. But when you keep rolling coaches over every 2 to 3 years, you can't develop the program and you can't get it back on track. And again, I don't know if that's a bad hire at certain times or if guys are just leaving, but you're right. I remember working with DJ Mara when DJ's father was the superintendent of Minerva. Would go down there for workouts. They would come up. It was really the last time that Minerva was making noise. It was about 10 years ago. But they do. They got great facilities. The turf field that they have down there. They have good athletes.
I mean, are they losing kids? What, are they losing kids to United? I mean, are they where are they losing kids to? I mean, if that's the answer, like, okay, I get that if you're losing talent to other places, but it's just a total failure from top to bottom for you to be this, let's face it, bad for so many years, and I don't put it on the kids. I've seen a lot of programs not be in great shape and not have great talent, but you can do enough things to make yourself competitive. You know, develop toughness, develop in the weight room, you know, find a niche. You know, we're going to do these things well. So, like I said, I really challenge the Minerva community to rally together and turn this thing around, because it is not just a head coach fix. It is, you know, it's youth program, it's continuity in the middle school, it's off-season program, it's weight room, it's support from the community, it's financial support. You know, so it's going to take a group effort to turn this thing around, and I really hope they do, because like we said, great football history down at Minerva. All right, Jim, now to Alliance. They beat Salem 41-30. Battle of two good quarterbacks. I know you had an opportunity to talk to Jackson Johnson, the Salem quarterback, after that matchup. So talk about that game a little bit.
Yeah, I was texting with him, DM with him, whatever you want to call it. We text quite a bit each week. Spent a lot of time with him at Ballard Quarterback Academy this summer down at Salem. Appreciated his dad, Coach Johnson, opening up the facility and allowing me to do what I do. But love watching him play. Really good player, really smart player, huge football IQ, but they were just too much for them. You know, he said that they really couldn't stop him on offense or on defense, and they didn't tackle very well. They got out to the big league quick. You know, the Zerba kid is just an absolute stud. We've seen him twice this year already. You know, even when they lost to Lake week 1, he was still so efficient. He was like 20 for 23 for almost 230 yards. Had 100 yards rushing. You know, then we come back, we do the Kansas Central Catholic game. He was just as dynamic then. He's really settled in the position. He's very mature. His football IQ is really high. He does the little things that are so important. You know, not taking sacks and key downs, like third and medium, or any time it's first down. Obviously, you never want to take a sack and get behind the chains. He does all those things well. In addition to the fact that he can really sling it and he can run like an absolute deer. Qualified for state last year in track. Total package as a quarterback. Love watching him play. Love what they have. And outside of him, they got dudes. You know, they got Hawkins. You got, you know, Davis. You got Bagheera. I mean, you got guys on the edge that can go get it. You got guys that can, you know, run jet sweeps and the push pass like Hawkins did against Central Catholic. They got a lot of home run hitters, and they're really tough to guard.
Mm-hmm. And they're 5-1 now. Rattled off 5 straight after that week 1 loss to Lake. They're going to meet another 5-1 team this coming week in Carrollton. Carrollton 36-14 winners over Marlington. Chase Olstrom is putting up. He's over 1,000 yards rushing already for Carrollton. He ran for 258 and 3 touchdowns in that win over Marlington. And I'm looking at the stats for Carrollton this season. They've only thrown the ball in 6 games 36 times. Your type of offense.
Six times a game for those of you scoring at home. Yeah, it's absolutely the opposite of my kind of offense. But they do it well. Chase Olstrom's having an unbelievable year. But to beat this Alliance team, their team speed is off the chart.
Mm-hmm.
Carrollton's going to have to go big personnel lineup and just try to run the ball north and south, because if you try to go side to side with them, they're too fast, they're too athletic, they're too big. You know, they're very one-dimensional, and I think they're really going to have their hands full with the Aviators this week. Yeah,
so both those teams 3-1. Game will be down at Carrollton, and Jeff Tyler and myself will be down there for our Stark Media Team YouTube stream game of the week. Carrollton Warrior Stadium, if you guys haven't been there in the last, since they've done renovations, the last couple of years, it's someplace you have to get as a high school football fan, especially now that the leaves are changing. It's just a beautiful setting. I know there's a lot of other big games going on this week with some of the bigger schools, but get down to Carrollton and see that stadium. I mean, it's going to be 65 degrees, at kickoff. It's going to get down to about 50, maybe 49 by the end of the game. But go down to Carrollton and check out that facility. It's awesome. Community does a great job. We talk about, Minerva, how, the community needs to route Carrollton down there. Obviously, a lot of influx of money with the natural gas going on. But what they've done there with their facilities and everything is, unbelievable. So I'm really excited to get back down there. Excited to have some Warrior cookies. If you guys don't know about that, it's like a big 8-inch cookie that they sell. at the concession stand. Their concession stand's the best too. So really excited to get down to Carrollton this week with Jeff. Check us out on the YouTube stream game of the week. That's it for the Pac-7 and EBC. We'll be right back with an interview with Coach Antonio Hall.
Chris McCready's and his team at Finally Hear Hearing Aid Center in Canton offer up over 30 years of experience for their customers who are hearing impaired. Head over to their website at finallyhearohio.com and schedule your free hearing aid test and evaluation today. They're a best of the best award-winning company that prides themselves on customer service. Stop down and see them at 1201 30th Street Northwest or contact them at 492-1212 for an appointment. And thank you for sponsoring Stark Media's finallyhearohio.com Player of the Game.
Welcome back to High School Football Rewind. Drew Sarachman, College Football Hall of Famer Jim Ballard, and we are here at the Frank Turk Alberta locker room over on the campus of Canton McKinley, and we are joined by Stark County Football Hall of Famer and McKinley Bulldogs head coach Antonio Hall. Coach, appreciate you coming on with us. 2 big weeks in a row after a not ideal start to the season. You as a McKinley guy, being here, you spent so many years in this community, so many years when the program was on top. Do you feel extra pressure as the head coach, being an alum of this program?
Not so much. The most pressure I feel is internalized. The pressure I put on myself to get this program back to its height. But outside pressure, I know everybody and everybody knows me. And if we have an issue with something, we can always talk it out. But there's no pressure for me except for the pressure I put on myself.
Mm-hmm. So when obviously you were the athletic director before you became the head football coach. But when you came back here, I remember you telling me that your focus was on football in the city of Canton as a whole. Mm-hmm. So what have you done as really the leader of football in the city of Canton? Are there any changes you've done to the youth program? Kind of talk about what's going on there at the lower levels.
Well, we started our youth program, the Canton Pups. They're going to be grades 3 through 6. We want to gear all of our 7th graders now to play on our 7th grade football team. This year we had approximately 124 kids in the league, 23 coaches. We're looking to only grow that and expand. We play our games at Crenshaw Middle School every week. We have an internal league where we play everybody 2 times and then try to get an all-star team together, and then we'll go play some travel ball around the state of Ohio. And if we make it to the national ranks, then we'll play there as well. But trying to centralize all the football efforts. There was a few travel leagues. There was our C's Youth League for a lot of years. But we kind of consolidated everybody under one roof, which is now the Canton Pups.
Awesome.
After such a tough start going forward, you guys have rattled off 2 straight wins, starting to elevate, things are going well. What's been the biggest change the last couple of weeks, if there really was anything, or did it just kind of come together? You guys were close the first, in a couple games. I know a couple games got away from you early, but what has been the biggest change?
Just staying the course. We saw that we're getting better every week. We were close at doing some really good things the first few weeks. We're in a couple situations where if the ball bounces a different way, or if we just do this, or if they just don't do that, then it's a different outcome. So just not hitting the panic button, just keep getting better, keep, as they say, trusting the process, and we eventually were able to put things together. Playing 4 quarters now of some high-level football in all 3 phases of the game. I'm very pleased with our special teams play across the board. I think that's been the biggest energy driver for us creating big plays, touchdowns, big hits, doing really good things on special teams that ignite the rest of the team. But just staying the course and keep sawing wood. By no means have we arrived. We still have not played our best football. We're trying to improve every week and do things a lot better.
Talk about the growth of Keaton Rohde. Last year with Marion Williams, they were kind of splitting back and forth. Mm-hmm. I can tell you as a quarterback, that is the absolute worst position to be in, regardless of, who's doing what. But just knowing that you're looking over your shoulder, that had to be really tough for him. Talk about what he's done this year and how he's grown from last year in that experience.
We had a tremendous offseason. We had a tremendous offseason academically, which he's a stellar student. He had a great offseason with his personal development. I know he's worked with several QB coaches around the area, and working with our offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, Bardwell. So just him really understanding our system, his reads, how to put our team in the best situation possible. Even last week, there were several times where it was a run-pass option, but he's like, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. So to show that how unselfish he is and how he puts the team first and really wants the team's success over his speaks volume about him as a leader in the field.
Defensively, weeks 1 through 4, it was a little bit of a struggle. I've seen you guys the past 2 weeks in person. I've been really impressed, especially with that side of the ball. I think there's a lot of good communication going on in the secondary. Guys are tackling. Talk about, what you guys have been focusing on the past couple of weeks to make those changes on defense.
The fundamentals. With us having a new system on defense, it's a blitzing system, so there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of changing responsibilities and coverage. There's a lot of mixed coverages that we run. So just the continuity in the field, angles and blitzes, making sure you're in the right zone at the snap of the ball, just little things that take time to develop and get comfort with. And now guys are settling in. We scaled back a bit with our packages and just want to let guys line up and play football now, and so they can see it better. And I think after we did that and guys got comfortable inside the scheme, we started to have success.
Yeah, they look like they're not thinking up there as much. It's just playing football. Offensively, the running game the past 2 weeks, has really been a bright spot for you. Really, the last 3 weeks. You guys have been running the ball well. Trey Mackey gets in the end zone last week. Keaton Rhodey really, set the tone for that game against Green, running the ball. But now Nino Hill, obviously a very talented kid. Talk about his growth and what he's done. I know Coach Hill's done a great job with him, but talk about Nino's growth.
Just his characteristics and attributes as a young back, his patience, his vision, his balance. All those things. He looks like he's a senior football player, and he's just a sophomore. So he's beyond his years in his development, but also his maturity. I tell people when I talk about him that when he comes into practice, it's a no-nonsense mentality. He comes into work, he wants to get better, he wants to make his team better, and to get that out of a sophomore is very special. So he's a rare football player.
Yeah, for sure.
So you guys are through 6 games. You said you're starting to figure things out a little bit on defense, just kind of settled in. Offensively, you found the run game in Nino. Who are a couple players that are X factors that are about ready to break out, maybe, or just haven't developed to where you want them to be, but that they're coming? Is there a couple guys that are on the cusp of, where did that guy come from?
Right. There are a couple guys. Honestly, there's quite a few. Guys like Kyler Jenkins, who was our defensive end this year, senior, who's now starting to figure it out. He had a breakout game last week. He got Defensive Player of the Week for us. Just because he's seeing his keys and executing at a high level. He's taking coaching, he's applying coaching, and he's having a lot of success with it. So I'll look him to continue on that track. Guys like Carolowski, our outside linebacker, he has a nose for the football. He was one of our, I think he's our leading tackler this week, but been in the top 2 or 3 the past 3 or 4 weeks. And our offensive line, we can talk about the run game. The run game, it's because of the guys up front. Guys like Riley Burt, our center, who's been the anchor there for the past 2 years. We have 2 captains up front. Our offensive line is the reason why we're having a lot of success here recently on the ground.
The lights start to come on with a lot of these guys. Things are just starting to, kind of aha moments, seeing kids do different things.
Yeah, technique is being cleaned up. Our communication is getting cleaned up. How we see things in real time is getting a lot better. So you know, we're just moving in the right direction, and that's what you want to see as we move forward in the season. You want to see yourself getting better and be peaking at weeks 8, 9, 10, 11, and hopefully have a strong playoff push.
So, you know, a lot of the watchers don't know, so we had an opportunity to coach together for a year at St. Thomas.
It was a fun year.
A couple of years back, deep playoff run. I was the offensive coordinator, you were the defensive coordinator.
Yes, sir.
Mike Cook, who's now defensive coordinator at Glen Oak, was the head coach.
Yep.
But I walked on the field last week, and at the coin toss, I saw referee Carl Davidson there.
Yep.
You know, and his crew, and it jogged my memory back to when you saved my ass against Canton Central Catholic when we were coaching at Aquinas. So here's a story for everybody. You know, it's so
Great story.
we were young. I think we were 3-0, but we were a really young team. We were still figuring ourselves out, and we played Central, who was really good. Kind of a tough matchup for us with how physical they were. Well, the first half was just an absolute shit show. Offense, defense, special. Actually, defensively, I don't think you guys played that, but special teams, offense was a shit show. Our headsets weren't working.
Yep.
So I'm up in the box, like, you know, and as you guys watch, I'm a pretty laid back guy, but believe it or not, like when I'm coaching,
He's a fiery guy.
I'm a little intense. So I'm up in the box, the headsets aren't working, so I'm livid at halftime. Like, I'm coming down to the field, and, you know, as other guys that I've worked for, you know, as a head coach will tell you, like, I need to be in the box because of my personality. So we decided at halftime, like, the only way we can score on these guys is we're gonna, you know, make this backyard football.
Right.
We're gonna go as fast as possible. We're gonna go no huddle. You know, we're gonna let our athletes, we're gonna get the ball first and maybe tire Central out. Well, the game starts turning in the second half. I think we were down 17 at halftime. We bring it to win 6 in the fourth quarter, and we have the ball and we're driving.
Yep.
It's 4th and 6, and we throw the ball out to Asian Burt, who's our best player, really talented player. And I don't know if the official just wasn't in a good position to see it, but right at the first down marker is the clearest targeting call you will ever see. And like I said, like, I'm not going to jump up and down on officials now. I mean, looking back, it was a tough thing to see from where they were, but me and you were right in front of it.
Yep.
And I lost my shit.
Yep.
Like, because it was game over. We didn't get the call. It was 4th down. It was game over.
Right.
Like, they were. I don't think we had any timeouts left. They were running out the clock. So I voiced my displeasure to the official on our sideline. Get a flag. Some say I might have belly bumped him. I don't think that really happened. But
Well,
you know,
the ref belly bumped me.
yeah.
Because I'm going on the field to check on Asian, and he like belly bumps me. You can't go on the field. I'm like, did you just touch me? Like, yeah. But go ahead.
So tensions are high, and I think Antonio sees like I'm still fired up, and I'm not thinking at the time. I get a second flag, I'm ejected. That's a $500 fine. So my boy Tone steps in, and he gets the second flag, so I don't.
Yeah.
So just, you know, funny memory when I walked on the field, saw those guys down there, and you know they do a great job. I mean, Carl does a great job. He's been around a long time, but
It's funny you bring that story up because 2 weeks ago at Green, they thought that I got a flag. It was a sideline thing, but it wasn't me. But everybody was like, "Was that your first flag?" And I'm like, "No, my first flag was Central Catholic in St. Thomas."
I'll make sure they get that guy's
Right.
we didn't have a guy.
Where's the get that guy?
We didn't have a get back guy. It was a 3-man show.
Right, we had 4 coaches on the squad.
So yeah, that was an awesome season. We had a deep playoff run.
It was a great year.
Eventually lost to the state runner-up,
Yep.
Lucas, in regional final, I think. But
Yep.
we appreciate you coming on. Just to wrap everything up, you know, this week you got Lake. You got to go up to Lake. This is probably their best team in years.
Without a doubt.
You guys are starting to, you know, reach your potential. Talk a little bit about that matchup.
I mean, Lake is big, very physical. They're going to run the ball at you, and they're going to try to hit you with some play action, or they have a nice little pass game package off of their run game. Defensively, they're very sound. Their linebackers play lights out. They have a nice blitz package that they do. So I mean, they're very well coached, very sound, and they play their ass off. So it's going to be a tough match for us.
What was the message to your team on Monday when the first thing that you were talking about Lake to your team? What was the message to them?
It really wasn't so much about Lake, it was about us. I mean, our focus is always on us.
That's great.
We say that if we don't lose to Mckinley, we have a great chance of beating whoever we're playing. And the past couple of weeks we figured out how to get out of our own way, and that's what we want to continue to do. So our message has been, consistency and avoiding complacency, and that's what we want to keep doing. Be consistent with our approach, be consistent with how we practice, with our preparation, and never get complacent about how good we play.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming on and doing this interview with us. Obviously, this is a beautiful facility. Also, if you don't know, the field house is under renovation. They're doing that right now. There's plans by 2024 for an indoor facility to be built down on the Timken campus. So maybe after the season, when all those renovations are done, Stark Media will come in. Coach maybe will give us a tour of the place, show us all the updates going on in the field house.
I'd love to.
We wish you luck and
Appreciate it.
the rest of the season, health, and I'm sure we'll be talking again maybe before week 10.
Sounds good to me.
But all right, well, hang tight. We'll be right back to recap last week in the Federal League and wrap up the rest of the show.
Mcneil and Sons Tree Service serves the greater Northeast Ohio area by keeping your property clear all year round. Do you have trees that have stretched too close to your home? A rotted tree that has to go? Or perhaps even storm damage? No job is too big or small for Mcneil and Sons. We specialize in large tree removal, storm damage, stump grinding, land clearing, and more. Mcneil and Sons Tree Service is fully licensed and insured, so contact us today at 330-606-1126 for all your tree care needs. Or visit us online at mcneiltree.com to schedule your free quote. The professionals at Mcneil and Sons can inform you of your tree health and give you a risk assessment to keep your family protected. So call today, 330-606-1126. Mcneil and Sons Tree Service, a company you can depend on with family you can trust.
All right, we're back here on High School Football Rewind. Thank you to Coach Antonio Hall for the hospitality down there at the Turk.
Unbelievable facility,
Yeah,
man.
really,
Seriously,
really
first time I've been in there, I was, wow. The history, all the jerseys, all the players that were All-Americans, guys that played in the NFL, the history of the building itself. I mean, if you haven't been in the facility, you got to go check it out, because if you're a football fan, it's kind of like a mini museum, and you forget all the great players that have come through, that stadium that sits behind us, and the history of the program with McDaniels, and now you got next gen McDaniels is, doing what he's doing in the NFL, and it's truly unbelievable. And as a football fan, man, it's so awesome to have this right in our backyard.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It really reminds me of a Division I college program. A lot of those programs, it's you walk in and it's that museum of your history and all the things that have happened. And it's great for these kids at McKinley to see that, because I think now in high school sports, a lot of times we forget our past. And in a place, like Canton McKinley, with such a rich tradition, it's important for these kids to see, the other people that strap that helmet on. The people that have put in the blood, sweat, and tears before them, so they can have these unbelievable facilities. I mean, hats off to the Canton City Schools administration right now, all the stuff they're doing, to give these kids the best of the best to succeed. So it was all, like you said, it's awesome. That's my second time being in there. So we really appreciate Tone helping us out and doing an interview with us in there. So we'll go to the McKinley Hoover game from last week. Game I was at. McKinley 42-9 winners. So Hoover got the ball to start the game, went down, kicked the field goal. McKinley returns the following kickoff for a touchdown, and then the butt whooping was on from there. Offense, defense, special teams. Hoover never looked comfortable the whole night. We talked about, Nino Hill with Antonio, his growth, a dynamic player. I've coached a lot of really good players and a lot of good running backs, and just after seeing him 2 weeks in a row and then seeing him up close from a field level this week, as a sophomore, he's one of the best, most gifted well-rounded high school backs I've seen as a sophomore. He's unbelievable.
Can't wait to check him out. I've not seen him on tape yet. Obviously been reading a lot about him, and he was kind of quiet because of the way that the season started for McKinley. But he's definitely pouring it on now, and only a sophomore. The things that he's doing, I'm excited to see him on film. I've looked at the height and the weight. I mean, he's a big, thick, strong
He is
kid.
a thick kid.
I know he breaks a lot of tackles. I know he's tough. I was really impressed with what Coach Hall said about him, how mature he is. The fact that he comes into practice, it's a business meeting. It's a two and a half hour business meeting on what we need to do, what I need to do. Very mature for a sophomore, and they got it rolling right now, man. They're really starting to figure it out.
Pups are looking good.
Yeah, then they're battle tested. I mean, at the end of the day, they got hammered by Fish, which is a really good team. They lost a close one to Dublin Kaufman.
Close one to Menor.
Close one to Menor. I mean, these are traditional playoff deep teams, and they're just starting to, figure it out a little bit. Keaton Rohde's kind of settling in, as we talked about with Coach Hall. This is his first year as a starter. They're athletic. They always
They've
have
got dudes everywhere.
Always have dudes, and now these guys are starting to figure it out. And when those athletic, they're such an athletic, fast team. Now when you can, as he said, when you can take the thinking part out of it and guys know where they're lining up and can just play football, they're awful tough to beat, and they're going to be a team we talk about at the end of the year, especially in the Federal League. I really think that Lake's going to have a tough week this week.
Yeah, we'll get to that preview in a little bit. Perry pulls away in the second half against Louisville. I'm checking that score, and I'm like, damn, Louisville is hanging with Perry.
They were beating them early.
Yeah, they were. And then all of a sudden, Perry's like, all right.
We're done.
We're done.
Done playing around.
Huge game for DeAndre Church on the ground. 255 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. So Perry, after that tough loss to Jackson, gets back on track, beats Louisville. What a tough schedule for Louisville. I mean,
brutal.
Their talent is a little down compared to, some of these Louisville teams in the past. They're playing Federal League teams like crazy. They had to go down and play Steubenville. They played Poland, who's a traditional power. So I was looking on Drew Pastor's website, fantastic50.net. I wanted to see their strength schedule. 3rd toughest strength of schedule in Division III out of 106 teams.
Wow.
And when talent's down right now, that's kind of, tough thing to deal with. So
and a turnover at the head coaching position in the last few years.
Yep.
It's just, you can't keep things or momentum going when you keep rolling over your head coach, because that's new philosophies and new footprint. Then you get used to that, and 2 years later he's gone, or a year later he's gone. Louisville's such a rich traditional football team. It's a great place to play. It's a great place to watch a game.
Great support from the community.
Great support from
And Louisville won't be down long, because the things that, like we talked about with Minerva, they've had this long culmination of things to have this long, drought of success. That won't happen in Louisville, because football is important. They value the game of football in Louisville, so you will see in the next couple of years this Louisville program start to turn around.
Great.
Lake, 21-7 winners over Jackson. Game that was scoreless in the first quarter. Lake really, ran the ball well in this game on Jackson. Talk about that game a little bit.
They ran the ball really well. There's still, there was a couple key passes during the course of that game. You were there, obviously. Caleb Jarvis had a nice throw for a 60-yard game, but they're going to have to throw the ball this week against McKinley. They're not going to be able to just line up and be one-dimensional. They're going to have to hit them, not just with play-action shots over the top, but they're going to have those 4 or 5 yard gains, throw the hitches, throw the slants, throw the quick passes, just to slow down that front four that they have. They're athletic on defense. I just don't know if they're just going to be able to line up and pound the ball down McKinley's throat. They're going to have to throw McKinley. If you know McKinley, they're athletic and fast on defense. If I'm scheming up against a team and I want them to pass the ball, I'm going to load the box and play man-to-man and just force you to beat them. And Lake really hasn't had to face that yet, and I think this week that's going to be a big test for them, because I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and getting back to this Lake Jackson game, Jackson they're kind of on the roller coaster right now. Big win week 1, last fourth quarter win. Week 2, pounded by Mayfield. Week 3, beat Boardman. And then
they beat Perry.
Then they beat Perry. They lost to Green on the final second. So Jackson's on the roller coaster right now. They got a Glen Oak team who really starts to put it together on offense last week against a solid opponent in Green. Glen Oak beat Green 31-24. Green took the early lead, 10-0, 17 unanswered for Glen Oak. Game went back and forth till the end. Obviously Avante Burt for Glen Oak, just dominant performance. He was a difference maker in that game. So that kind of sets up a matchup, Glen Oak and Jackson, where you and TJ will be this week for 99.7 and iHeart Media app. It's going to be an interesting game over there because, like we said, Jackson's on the roller coaster. Glen Oak's trying to find themselves. It's like the light bulb comes on and then someone turns it off. Then the light bulb comes back on again and someone turns it off.
So is the story of the Fed this year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at any given week, you're standing at the front of the craps table and you don't know what's going to happen. Games that you think are going to go one way that makes sense for it to go one way, they don't go that way. Mm-hmm. Glen Oak's one of those teams. They're scary. They're athletic. We covered them. We saw what they could do on defense. They played very tough. In the first half against Masson before the wheels fell off a little bit. But Glen Oak has to get better in the pass game. I mean, they were only 5 for 17 last week. And Jackson's got to get better in the pass game. They've been below 50%. So it's going to be one of those games. Again, Glen Oak is athletic on defense. Jackson really hasn't pushed the ball down the field vertically at all. It's been a lot of short stuff, bubble screens, trick plays at times. If you're Glen Oak, you load the box. You take Davide out of the equation. You make Laterillo beat you. You make Fuel Line get open when we go press man. You make Luke Johnson get open when we go press man and try to get physical with those wide receivers because they really haven't seen it. They really haven't had a game where it's like, wow, we threw the ball extremely well. It hasn't happened yet this year. They had to replace Lesko. Laterillo's been good at times. He had a great 2-point throw.
Yeah, great
and the win over Perry, but it's just not enough. The pass game has got to get better if Jackson wants to continue to get back on that winning streak and to finish out well in the Fed.
Yeah, if I'm Jackson and I'm looking at Glen Oak, I see the youth, which, probably can mean some inconsistencies. So if I'm Jackson, I probably do similar things in the running game, and I try to scheme some deep shots, try to take advantage, maybe off that counter look, throw some deep shots, get those young defensive backs from Glen Oak thinking, do I come up, do I take some risks, do I need to get in the running game? So that'll be interesting.
Listen, Glen Oak decided, week 2 against Massillon. Mm-hmm. Jackson has some guys, but they don't have anybody near like Banks, right? Mm-hmm. And what do? They came up, they played one high safety, and they played cover one, press, and they forced them to hit it. And Massillon really didn't throw the ball well against them. So fast forward to Jackson, you have to think they're going to come out and play the exact same way, and I would as well. You got to take Davide out of the equation on offense if you're Glen Oak because the offense runs through him.
You need to run to the football if you're Glen Oak because Davide, we talked about him last week, great vision, patience. On those patient runners, you have to swarm them. It goes back to like Eric Howard back in the day for Hoover. He was a very patient runner, but when they played Louisville, they couldn't do shit against him because Louisville ran to the football. They're saying, we are not going to let this kid breathe.
Never let him rush for 100.
Yeah, they were all running because it's the effort that the defense showed against those patient backs that you've got to get all 11 hats there. So, like we said, you and TJ and Mark Milano will be out of Jackson for Glen Oak at Jackson, 99.7 FM. Jeff Tyler and myself will be down at beautiful Carrollton Warrior Stadium for Alliance at Carrollton. And then Sam Berkwin and Jeff Shreve will be up in Hartville for McKinley at Lake. Now let's talk a little bit more about that McKinley Lake game. Lake, I said at the beginning of the year, I said, Lake is my pick to win the Federal League. They've played well. They're 6-0. They're a little banged up on the offensive line. I think they get one of those guys back this week.
Got Ty Miller back.
Last week. So this Lake team has seen speed. They've seen speed so it's not like the McKinley speed's going to be new to them. But if I'm Lake, the way you beat this McKinley team right now is Will Butler has to have 20 carries, and you have to allow that to influence the McKinley defense. Obviously Cale Jarvis is one of the leaders of this team. He's going to be your starting quarterback next year because Will Butler's graduating. But for Lake, you need the running game of Will Butler to open up the play action passing game against McKinley. And that's the recipe for success is, hey, we may only play Cale Jarvis, 3 series this game because, just the matchup tells us we need to run the ball with Will Butler. We need to go on balance. We need to do those types of things and hit those deep shots. And that's nothing against Cale Jarvis. It's just it's a matchup thing. With that said, I think the way this McKinley team's playing on special teams, on defense, and on offense, I don't think Lake can beat them. And our power rankings, I believe it came out today, earlier, and a lot of people might be pissed off, but I'm putting McKinley second behind Massillon over Lake in my power rankings, just because I've seen both teams play, and I see the potential that McKinley has, and the way they've been playing the last 2 weeks, and I think they go up and beat Lake.
I got Massillon, then Lake, then McKinley. With that being said, I think that the recipe needs to change a little bit this week if Lake wants to beat McKinley. And they've got to commit to that. And I think that if that happens, Lake can win the ballgame. It's also a tough matchup for Lake because they haven't seen kids that just come out and play man. They did a little bit against week 1.
East tried to do it a little bit too, but East struggled. They weren't there, but McKinley has the ability to come play man, but they've done a lot of too high stuff as well. So we'll see what happens. But Dante McClellan on defense, Sean Carolowski on defense, Trayshawn Foster on defense for McKinley in the secondary have really upped their game. I mean, it wasn't just a few weeks back that I was saying, what the hell is going on? Kids aren't tackling in the secondary, kids aren't communicating, and that has really changed. When I watched McKinley this past week from field level, the communication going on in defense was very crisp. They were echoing to each other if they were doing checks. There's communication on the sideline. As they came off the field, you had players talking to the other players. Hey, you should have done this. This is what needs to happen. And we talked about it before. When your players take accountability, for effort and for a lot of things, it makes you a better football team. And that's what's happening to this McKinley squad right now.
I agree, and it starts at the top too. Talk about accountability. Antonio Hall has accountability. I mean, we've seen him come out in the paper and say, hey, that one was on me. That won't happen again. We got out-coached, and it starts there. So to your point, Drew, when you see kids start doing that, and some of the things he said earlier about them, maybe trying to do too much early in the season, pairing it, bringing it down a little bit. Let's just do this.
Yep.
Let's do 4 things and
Really
let's do
well.
them really well instead of trying to do 7, 8, or 9 and we'll, run this 2 times a game and just line up and do what we do. And that's what they're starting to do. The game seems to be slowing down for a lot of these kids. And the one thing you can't not talk about is the fact that this staff was hired late last year. This is only their 2nd season together. And last year was their first off season together.
Yeah.
So they're still figuring things out from that standpoint. Coach Antonio has never been a head coach before, and then all of a sudden he is asked to come back to the high school that he started at, and then went on and did the things that he did. That is pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not pressure from anybody in the community, as he said, because he's such a competitor, he's such a great player, and that's the way that he coaches. There's no more pressure from the outside than he's going to put on himself. I love what he's doing. This team is really elevating. As far as stock-wise, I think they're a good football team, and I think that Lake right now is primed for an upset.
Yeah. So with that said, though, Lake's done nothing but win so
Nothing.
far.
And they always play McKinley tough. It's come
Yep.
down to goal line stands, I believe, the last couple of years.
Yep.
So it's going to be a ball game. Lake has an advantage because they're home. You know they're going to be hanging off the rafters. It's a great place to see a game.
It's going to be packed.
It's going to be packed, a lot of people, and it's going to be exciting. And Lake is going to have to start fast. And if you're McKinley and you get the ball, you want to flip that. You get the ball to start the ball game. You want to go down and put it in the end zone right now and just take that crowd and deflate it.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, watch the special teams plays this week, because 3 weeks in a row, McKinley has been awesome on special teams. Return game, cover game, recovering fumbles, forcing fumbles. So that's going to be a big part of this football game, and Lake's going to, can't take those plays off. Maybe you see a little more seniors in on special teams for Lake than some of the young guys that you have typically out there. So, but that's going to wrap up High School Football Rewind for this week. Make sure you follow us on social media, Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube page, Instagram, Twitter. We're always putting content out throughout the week. Great graphics done by Chad Butcher down there at Fairless. We appreciate all your help there.
Man.
Go out and see a game this week. The weather's it's going to be nice Friday night. It's fall. That's what community is about. Get together, support your local teams, and thanks to all our sponsors again. And that'll wrap it up for us this week. Drew Sarachman, Jim Ballard. We're out of here.